Welcome to the Mid-America PTTC podcast, where we are a community of change leaders and prevention catalysts that strive to empower individuals and communities to promote safe, healthy, and drug-free communities across our region. We're honored to have you as a member of our PTTC community. Thanks for listening and keep up the great work.
Every single one of us is a leader and could be a leader.
It started with a local coalition in our county.
Strategies you know, but stories you don't.
Data is the currency of prevention.
We want to reduce the negative and we want to promote the positive.
Collaboration is the only way to move the prevention needle.
About connecting the research with the practitioner.
Put something out there that was kind of off the wall and create a community of prevention.
It's a passion, it's a real love to try to help make our world a little bit better, a little bit happier, small pieces at a time.
It's said an overnight success takes 16 years.
If we didn't plan for the change, but if we didn't help orchestrate it, then change is going to be upon us.
When it comes to the spiff, slow is smooth and smooth is fast, because the real power is in the process.
Ultimately, all of us want success in the work we're doing. We don't want to do mindless work. Proactive, participatory planning promotes positive, preventive progress.
This is the Mid-America PTTC podcast. I'm your host, Dave Clausen, and I'm the director of the Mid-America Prevention Technology Transfer Center. This is episode 21, and today we will be talking with Lisse Regehr. Lisse is the president and CEO for Thrive Allen County. She oversees Thrive's effort to build a statewide rural health advocacy network in Kansas and coordinates engagement with state and local policymakers. And just a little bit about Thrive Allen County. They are the largest and most prominent rural health advocacy organization in Kansas. They work relentlessly to make Allen County the healthiest rural community in the state. In 2017, Thrive's vision was recognized nationally as Allen County won the prestigious Culture of Health Prize from the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation for pursuing innovative ideas and bringing partners together to rally around a shared vision of health. The things that Thrive has put into motion have laid the foundation for a sustainable culture of health in Allen County. But before we get into the content, we'd like to thank our funder, the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration. Quick note, although funded by SAMHSA, the content of this recording does not necessarily reflect the views of SAMHSA. Without further ado, let's get into the content. All right, well, I would like to welcome Lisse to the podcast. Lisse, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Dave. I'm really honored to be here with you today.
Oh, we are excited that you're here and can't wait to learn about Thrive Allen County and all of the great work you have going on. And in my research, sort of learning about Thrive Allen County, you guys have embraced that sense of community that we're fostering, we're strengthening throughout the Mid-America PTTC. So I'm really excited. But before we jump into it, would you share just a little bit about your personal background for those listening?
Yeah, I would love to. So I am an Air Force brat is how I like to explain myself, meaning that my dad was in the military, so I grew up moving around the country. But unlike a lot of military children, I always had one place to come back to that I could call home. And that was Allen County. And every summer, we would spend about a month to 6 weeks here in Allen County with all of our family, which was an amazing experience for me and just created so many wonderful memories and really kind of cemented my heart wanting to be here in this part of the country after all of the places that I lived. And I went off to college and then moved to Minnesota and worked in the Twin Cities for 10 years. I worked in development and also in nonprofit. And after 10 years, really wanted to move closer to home and got so lucky when my brother-in-law told me about the organization Thrive Allen County having a position open. And so although I figured I'd need to move back to Kansas City or Lawrence area, with Thrive, it enabled me to move back to my hometown in the same town as my parents and my grandparents and my sister and her family and my aunts and uncles. So it was an amazing move for me. And I started at Thrive as a navigator. So being able to help people navigate the health insurance system, and then continued to move. There was kind of this joke about how many titles I carried over my time here already. But I started as a navigator, moved on to special projects coordinator, where I worked with economic development, and then became our director of outreach and advocacy, working on all of our communications and our advocacy work, and then became our deputy director with the outreach and advocacy. And this past January, we had our first major transition at Thrive, where our founding CEO, David Toland, we were very honored with him and for him. He became the Secretary of Commerce for the state of Kansas. And so when that happened, we did a national search, and I love this organization and this community. So I put my hat in the ring as well, and I was chosen to become our next CEO. And it's the biggest honor of my life to be able to follow in those footsteps and lead this organization in our community.
It's wonderful how you've been able to make it back to your home there in Allen County. You can really hear that sense of passion and caring in your voice when you talk about Thrive Allen County. And I imagine that is a common thread through everyone there working with you in the community. That's great. That passion and that caring, so powerful.
Yes. I mean, if you don't have the right people in your organization who truly care about the community, then you're not going to be able to get the things done that we've been able to do over the past decade plus of our existence. And I agree. You need people who are passionate when you talk about community engagement and work, passionate about where we live and the work that we do and the people that we serve. Perfect.
Well, tell me more about Thrive Allen County. I'm sure some of the folks might not be familiar with it.
There are probably a few people out there who do not know who we are. Yes, Thrive Allen County is a health, wellness, and economic development coalition. And we were formed back in 2007. And in 2008, we brought on David Toland as our first executive director. And David really propelled us forward. He moved here from Washington, D.C. He's a seventh generation Allen Countyan. And again, it goes back to people who truly want to see their home communities thrive. And he's one of those people. And so he came back and really started us off in such a strong way, working first on kind of the typical health and wellness initiatives that one thinks about, but also in 2013, adding in economic development, because at Thrive, we truly believe when you talk about health and wellness, that you're not just talking about your physical health, you're not just talking about your mental health, you're talking about the health of your entire community. You're talking about fiscal health. It's everything rolled into one. And that is truly how Thrive has approached the work that we do. We are a community-based organization. And at the time when we were created, it was a group of volunteers in the community who came together and said, we've seen this century of decline in our community and we're tired of it. We are tired of the mindset that tomorrow will be worse than today, that so many of our community members kind of lived with. And they truly wanted to change that. They wanted to create an organization that brought hope to people, that empowered our community. And so with that, we started working on changing a culture and a mindset to tomorrow will be better than today. And one of the things that I'm so very proud of is it took us a decade doing really intensive work with the community. But one of our data points that we always look to are the county health rankings. And when the county health rankings first came out, Allen County was ranked number 90, I think it was 94 out of 105 counties. So we were on the exact wrong end of the spectrum from where we wanted to be, when our vision, our true vision at Thrive, is that Allen County will be the healthiest rural county in the state of Kansas. And so when we were ranked, on the lower quartile of the spectrum, we really decided, this is our call to action and we have to do something. And so we really started looking at data and the areas that we could focus in on. And this past year, for the first time ever, we didn't just crawl out of the lower quartile, we jettisoned out of it. And we are now ranked number 38 in the state of Kansas.
Yeah.
And so this is a huge accomplishment for our entire community, because it does not take one organization to make that kind of change. It takes all the organizations, all the coalitions in our community working together to positively affect these changes, to really move the needle in a positive direction for our community. And that is truly what Thrive is about, is how do we become the healthiest rural county in the state of Kansas?
So much just passion and great, just not just collaboration, but community there.
Yes.
With that sort of total health or wellness approach, everything from physical to mental health, physical health, I imagine there are several different disciplines and community members and stakeholders and coalitions that would play a role in that total package. How are you able to engage, collaborate, partner, work with so many different stakeholders?
Yeah, such a good question. One of the first things that we started doing at Thrive back in 2008 is we started holding community conversations, and we went into every single town in Allen County, and really just went in and introduced ourselves and said, hey, we're Thrive Allen County. This is why we're here. This is what we exist to do. And we want to get to know you, and we want you to share with us, what your dreams are, what your concerns are, what barriers you see, what opportunities you see. Mm-hmm. And we like to tell the story about how we started in Elsmore, which is a town of about 68 people. And in that first conversation, 45 people showed up because no one had ever come to them. No one had ever asked them their opinion on anything. And when we went out there, you'd think with that many people showing up that they'd have a lot of things they wanted to share. But I highlight this that I'm about to share with you because I think it's so important. Even if you get all those people showing up, it doesn't mean you have their trust. And what we found when we first asked them questions is that it was very silent, that they weren't in a place to trust us yet to share what they wanted to share with us. Because even if they did think we could maybe solve a few of their problems and work with them, like they didn't know us. And you really have to build trust with your community. And so it took a while for someone to raise their hand and say, hey, we see this issue. Can you help us with it? And it wasn't an issue that was truly health related that Thrive would look to as being part of like our toolkit and the things that we typically work with. But in our mind, it was that we are a community-based organization. And if this community is asking for this problem to be solved, then we will work with them to get it solved so that we can start building trust with that community. And that's what we started to do. And we went back time and time again to show them that we are continuing to work with you. We are continuing to build trust. And we did that throughout the county. And so what we found was it might have taken 3 conversations of us going back and having that face-to-face with them before they got to a point where they wanted to say, okay, here's the health-related issue that we see that we want to work with. But they did finally get to a point where we were all on the same page and we were all speaking the same language. And that is because we were able to put those trust deposits, those deposits into the trust bank and really earn their trust because we followed through with what we promised them we would do. And so being able to communicate and follow through and deliver on your promises really became a hallmark for how we worked with the community. Because if you're going out there and saying, we want to hear from you, but you're not truly authentically engaged and listening to them, they will know that. They will test you, as they should, to see if you're truly being authentic with them. And when I mean authentic, I mean, don't just say we're coming out to do a community conversation and check that box and don't go back or don't follow up with them. It is that we are writing down what you were telling us. We are saying it back to you so we understand, like, because we all hear things differently. So we want to say this back to you to make sure we are all hearing this the same way. This is what you're telling us. And then they'll say yes. And then taking it back as a staff and working on those issues and bringing them back to them and saying, okay, these are areas where we think we can connect you with resources. These are areas where we think we can connect you with the people who will help you. This is where Thrive can come in ourselves, and really truly start having those authentic conversations with people. And I think when you talk about community engagement and partners, you really, at the foundational level, you have to have trust with your community members. And that's how you engage your organizations and individuals and civic groups and churches and every other part of the community that comes to mind.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm glad that you spoke to the importance of trust and building those relationships, and that it might take 3 different conversations before you can find sort of that common ground, because we always try to share the importance of building relationships, and building a relationship is a journey, not a destination.
Exactly. It doesn't happen overnight. And community work, especially, you're talking about things that are very, very personal to people. When you're talking about engaging your community, you are talking about the place that these people live. You're talking about the place they play and their children are getting educated, the place that they pray. You're talking about everything, and it is very personal. This kind of work gets very personal because it is about our home and how do we protect it, and how do we help make more progress, and how do we thrive. And so there is a very big emotional side of that, and you have to honor that as well. And I have someone who tells me when people get upset, like when they're frustrated with something in the community, or that they think that, that they've seen us do, it's that they are caring loudly. They're caring loudly at us. And I love that quote. And I think about that often, that it is because we do such important personal community work that people they get fired up and they get passionate, whether it's passionate because, yes, they love what we're doing, or passionate because they don't. It's all because it's part of the work we do as a community. Caring loudly is one of my favorite phrases at this point. And it's a reminder that, they might be frustrated, but it's because they care.
We all care. Working in this field, we wouldn't work in this field if we didn't care.
Exactly.
So caring loudly. I like that.
Yeah.
Now, I wanted to just bring up culture. I'm hearing some very intentional culture within the Thrive Allen County offices, being very empathetic and person-centered, community-centered, and then also that spirit or that will to always help. Can you tell me a little bit more about how you are building both the culture there within Thrive Allen County and with your communities?
Yeah. So we like to call ourselves a yes organization. So when someone comes into Thrive with an issue, with an opportunity, with a problem, whatever it is, we do not want to turn them away. We want to sit down with them. We want to figure out if we can connect them to resources, if we can help them figure out how to make their dream come true, whatever it is. We want to be able to work with them. So that's something that I try and talk with our staff with constantly. We are a yes organization. We are about getting things done. We are about being positive. And so with that, the community has trusted us over the years, and they come to us with their dreams and their aspirations. And one of the things we really work to do is to not do the work for them, but to empower them to do the work. And so as an example, we had community members from Moran, which is a town of 500 on the eastern part of Allen County, come in and say, we'd really love to have a fitness center in our community, but we don't know where that could go. We don't have funding. And we said, we'd love to partner with you on this. And so as an organization, we were able to work with them. And there was a member of their community who owned an old convenience store that was no longer being used. And he said, you guys can use it. And basically, we were able to assist them as they transformed this old gas station into a fitness center that they call 54 Fitness, because it's right on Highway 54. And we were on our end able to write a grant that allowed them to buy exercise equipment. And then their city really kind of handles the fitness center, and they put a key fob on it. So you don't have to have someone staffed there. They're able to know who's coming in and out because they put security cameras and the key fob in. And then for $10 a month now, a family can utilize the fitness center, and it just comes straight out of their utility bill. So it's no fuss, no mess. And it's been amazing. And with that win, the community got empowered because they loved that win and they wanted another win. And it truly empowered them to do more. And so they came to us again and said, we're afraid our grocery store is going to close. They've been trying to sell it for years, the family that owned it, and no one was buying, no one was interested. And so they were really concerned that they were going to lose that grocery store. And I think it was a very valid concern. And so Thrive was able to assist on that as well. And we came in and worked with them to turn their grocery store into a co-op. And a lot of times when you hear people talk about a co-op, you think of the co-ops you find in the cities, and they're all organic and full of really good food for you. And that is not exactly this co-op. This is your true like small town grocery store, very small, but truly owned now by the community. We were able to bring in a wonderful woman, Yvonne Scott, who was with our Vista program. And I truly think she was the magic in this project, and really was able to turn this grocery store into a co-op within just about a year. It was a really fast timeline where the community bought into it, and they purchased memberships at $100 a piece. And whereas you typically think of co-ops being owned by kind of your hipster set, this is mainly kind of gray-haired individuals who bought into this co-op. And it's one of my favorite things about it is these are people in their community who wanted to save their grocery store, and they were empowered to find a way to do it. And so that's truly the way that we're trying to build this culture, is empowering our residents to do that. And in 2017, we were honored to win what is called the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation Culture of Health Prize. And we consider this one of the greatest honors. We are the first and so far only Kansas community to win this honor. And it's not because we have figured out everything about building a culture of health. It is not because we are the healthiest community in Kansas. We are not, as I stated before. We have a lot that we struggle with in the area of health that we are continuing to work on. But what RWJ saw in us when they came and met with us and our community members was a community that knew how to collaborate and how to partner and how to come up with unique solutions where you would think outside the box to solve problems. And I truly think it's that collaboration and that way of being scrappy, because we don't have a lot of resources in Southeast Kansas, that really made us stand out, because we know one person can't get it done, one organization can't get it done. But if we're all pulling together, we're all working together, we're going to figure it out together. And if we're all on the same side working towards that progress, good things are going to happen. And that's exactly what the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation saw in us. And I truly believe that is one of the biggest reasons we were honored with the Culture of Health Prize in 2017.
That is very cool. It just resonates with the together we are stronger.
Yeah.
Building
definitely.
Yes, you guys are good at fostering, strengthening, and building that sense of community and empowerment. I hear often some coalitions might struggle with that, engaging multiple stakeholders to really foster that sense of community, that buy-in, that we're here to help each other. You guys have got it going on.
Thank you.
Now, one of the goals of this podcast is to facilitate peer sharing so folks can learn from Thrive Allen County. But I believe you had hinted offline about Thrive Kansas.
Yes.
Tell me about that.
So with the work that we have been able to do in Allen County, we started a few years ago to have rural communities really reach out to us and ask us for assistance and how do you do what you've done in Allen County and how can we replicate that? And so a few years ago, we were able to, through a grant from the Kansas Health Foundation, we were able to create a coalition that we call Thrive Kansas. And it truly exists to bring rural communities together and to learn from each other, just like what you're talking about, peer learning. And we're starting out on the front end with Thrive being able to go out and really mentor these communities. Our hope is through that process that we truly can help communities move faster along this like timeline than Thrive has and then Allen County has, because we're able to share what was done successfully and where we failed. And when I talk about failure, I like to say we really work on failing forward, that we learn from our failures and we gain experience from that and try and get as much positive effects from that failure as possible. But really to go out and work with these communities, because in our mind, a rising tide lifts all boats. And we really want to create a rural rising, because just having Allen County rise and be able to get out of that lower quartile of the county health rankings is not enough. We cannot be the only county that is able to have this success, because we truly need our neighbors to rise with us. We need the entire state to rise with us. And honestly, we all have a lot to learn here in Allen County too. And the stronger our coalition and network is, the more we're able, just like you talked about, peer sharing, to share what we are all doing, because there are communities out in Western Kansas and Central Kansas and Northern Kansas that are doing amazing things. And when we're all able to talk with each other, we're like, holy cow, let's implement your amazing thing here in Allen County. And you guys can take this amazing thing we've done in Allen County and implement it, in, let's say, Wichita County, which is Western Kansas. And then we're all learning from each other and adding to our communities in positive ways. And I only see good things happening as we continue to communicate as a coalition and share ideas and help our communities grow and thrive.
Community, community, community. I am fired up and motivated. For the listeners, if you haven't listened to the earlier podcast where we talk about build the community to build the capacity, check it out. I get fired up about community. I do, because we're all a community. We all want to have healthier, safer communities. So yes, the more we come together towards that common goal, the stronger we will be.
Totally agree with you, 100%.
Outstanding. Now, is there a program or a service or something you'd really like to highlight that Thrive Allen County has got going on?
Yeah. So, when I was talking about sharing programs, one of the programs that we created a few years ago was a free rural bike share program. And it really came about because over the past decade, Thrive has been involved in creating more than 40 miles of trails and routes throughout Allen County. Most of these are volunteer-built trails and maintained trails, and they're amazing. You guys should come to Allen County and check them out. But with that, we also really needed the economic development side of trails, which was a bike shop. And so we were able to recruit a bike shop into the community because they were able to see this growing culture. And so when that bike shop came in, Thrive had these dreams of being able to really kind of mirror what our urban counterparts were doing, which was creating these bike share programs where you could rent a bike. And we really wanted something like that. And so we partnered with our bike store and decided, though, that we couldn't afford the model that they have in urban centers with the credit cards. It's about a $25,000 model. We needed something much cheaper than that, at least much more inexpensive, I should say, maybe not cheaper. But so what we did is we decided that we would buy a bike rack and 5 bikes, and we put them out in front of our office and advertised that these were free for a 24-hour period. You could check one bike out, and then you bring it back, and then someone else can check it out. It's just like a library. And what we found in that first week was the bikes were not being used just to go out to the trails. They were not being used just to tour downtown Iola, which was our first location for them. They were being used to go to the doctor's office. They were being used to go to the grocery store, to pay utility bills. They were being used to get to work, because in Allen County, we do not have a strong non-emergent transportation system. In fact, I'd say we basically have no non-emergent transportation system. And this bike share program became a lifeline for our community members to get to where they needed to go. And so I talk about now how it's basically become a Band-Aid, and it's grown from 5 bikes to about 45, and they're spread out throughout the entire county. And we even have a couple of trikes, so people with different abilities might be able to still utilize a bike in the same way that anyone else could. And so we're really trying to grow this program in a way that all of our community members can benefit from it. And one of the things we found out about this bike too, I told you, or the bike shares, I mentioned it was a lifeline. We literally had a gentleman use it as a lifeline, which I always say we do not endorse or encourage people to do this, but he was a regular bike share user, and he was at home with his niece, and he started to exhibit symptoms of a heart attack. And she said, you need to call an ambulance. you need to go to the hospital. You got to get to the ER. And he said, we can't afford it. We can't afford the ambulance. And he wouldn't call. And his symptoms got worse. And she finally bugged him enough that he had this epiphany that he had a bike share bike at his house. And he said, I'm going to use my bike share bike and I'm going to bike to the ER. And again, I have to tell you, we don't endorse or encourage people to ride a bike. Please call an ambulance. But this gentleman literally rode his bike to the ER, walked it into the ER with him and said, I think I'm having a heart attack. And can you please call Thrive Allen County and tell them their bike share bike is here? And so, yes. And so I, to this day now, get to say our bike share bikes saved lives. Because this gentleman ended up being just fine. They took care of him. We got the bike share bike back, and he is still a regular user of our bike share program. So I share that because we started with one idea of how this program would work, which would be mainly tourists and getting people excited about being on a bike again, because we wanted to reintroduce a bike culture to our community. And what we found was that we have a huge transportation issue in Allen County that we are now, actively looking to address. And this is the Band-Aid situation for that. And so one thing that I'm very proud of Thrive is that we're very good at pivoting and at also seeing what our community needs and listening to them and what they need. And so with our bike share program, we allow people to check out bikes for longer periods if they have been trusted to be able to take care of the bikes, if we know that they're using them to get to work, if they're that lifeline that they need. And so always being flexible and nimble and aware of what the community needs so that you can pivot and work with them is something that I'm very proud of what we've been able to do. And I think that bike share model kind of is a good example of that.
Yes, pivot.
Yes.
Often folks will say the prevention field is slow to change.
Yeah.
And we've got to really be intentional about pivoting. And it's sounding like one of your keys to staying nimble and being able to pivot is that strong sense of community, having that team in the community. Can you tell me a little bit more about that if I'm on point?
Well, I think in order to be able to be nimble and to pivot, you have to have your ear on the ground and you have to understand what is needed. And if we just, hold ourselves up in a castle somewhere and it was hard for people to access us, we wouldn't know what they needed. If we just rented out bikes and didn't ask them how they were being used and what their experience was with the bikes, then we could very well believe that the people checking out the bikes are touring the trails. But having those authentic conversations with people when they come in to check them out, people sharing why these bikes are important with us meeting with them and talking with them about it, it allows us to understand where the community is and why the need is there and how we need to grow and be able to also change when change is needed, whether it's a bike share program or our care coordination program where we meet with individuals for insurance or other care coordinated services, whether it's our trails programs or Thrive Kansas. Like, how do we listen to what our community needs and pivot with them when those needs change?
Listening and caring and working together. I love it. I'm going to stop myself from going off on a rant there. So I've got one last sort of question before we wrap things up. If you were going to give one piece of advice to a community coalition leader, what would it be?
Ooh, that's good. One piece of advice. Wow. Boy, I might wrap a few things in here. I think
go for it.
The first, so one is to deliver on the promises. When you talk with your community and you say you're going to do something, deliver on them. Because if you don't, you will lose their trust, and you have to have their trust. Two is, it's a David Tolan quote that I like to use, which is action removes doubt. You won't ever know if something is going to be successful or not unless you try and do it. And it's scary. It's crazy scary to get out there and try something. It's scary to engage with your community because you never know what they're going to say or how they're going to react. But that's just it. If you don't take that action, you won't know. And I like to share that, we wouldn't have air conditioning. We wouldn't have the heating sources or the internet or our telephones if people hadn't failed before us. It takes all these failures to learn from those past mistakes to take us to where we are today. So don't be afraid of failure. Embrace it and fail forward. And then truly the big thing is to just start. And that is super scary. Taking that first big step to taking your coalition forward and really working with the community. It's scary, and it's kind of like that, giant leap for mankind, and that's what it feels like. But it's so important, and whether you're a health coalition, whether you're a community coalition, whatever it is, other people have tried this in the past and succeeded, and you can always find a network of people who want you to do amazing things, who are so excited for you, who are your friends, who really just want you to succeed. And this is hard work, and people can get you down sometimes. And I think the really important thing is to remember that truly people want good things for their community. They want you to succeed, and always hold on to that as well.
The community, having folks that want you to succeed. To all those listeners, that is the PTTC network. We want you to win. We want you to succeed. We are here for you. And if you're a little scared or not ready to take that first step, unsure, hey, we believe in you. So we're here to cheer you on. Now, where can folks find out more information about Thrive Allen County, or follow along or contact you?
Yeah, so we are, our website is thriveallencounty.org. So Thrive, Allen, and County are all spelled out. You can find us on Facebook. You can find us on Instagram. You can find us on Twitter at Thrive Allen. Most of those are run by my executive intern, because I do not have as much of the knowledge as I'd like to say I do about Instagram and other things that are typically aimed at generations a little bit younger than me. But those platforms are really well maintained by my team. They do an amazing job. And so you can find out so much information about us on all of those platforms. And if you want to reach out to us, if you are working on coalition work, if you're working on community work, we are happy to talk with you and share what we've learned. We just, again, a rising tide lifts all boats, and we really, really want all of you guys rising, because that means all of our communities together rising is only a good thing.
That always happy to help, that team approach,
Yes.
That is your culture. That is how you live out your days. I can already tell it.
Yes.
Thank you very much for coming on. It's been an honor, and I look forward to many more collaborations and conversations with Thrive Allen County.
Well, thank you so much, Dave, for allowing me to tell our community story. It's always such an honor, and I'm always completely humbled to be in this position, to be able to share all of our good work. And so just thank you so much for allowing me to highlight the community. It's great.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you very much. Have a good one.
You too.